We'll see if this second time is the charm. Hopefully it won't take 3 times to figure this out. All right, we'll try this again. Um, all right, sent the request. Let's see. I closed out Instagram and opened it again, so hopefully this time it'll work. So we can talk beans and skin, and my skin has never been better. But in all transparency, I never really had a bad skin issue. I had really bad skin issues when I had Crohn's disease. But
Yay!
we figured this out.
Yeah, that was so weird.
So weird because everybody's like they could see you, but they couldn't see me, or they could see. Well, I don't know. I couldn't see you, so
Yeah, that was so
now I
nice.
can see your beautiful face. How are
We're
you?
good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah,
Good. Your
it's
teeth
nice
look
here.
so white right now.
Who, me?
Yeah, your teeth look good.
My teeth.
Yes.
Your teeth always look good. Yeah, my teeth and your skin looks amazing, and but you always look amazing. You're, one of the stories that I do follow quite often. I'm like, how does she look good every day? Like, there's half the days I would not put my face on Instagram.
I know. I feel like throughout quarantine, especially when my skin was really bad, the only thing that made me feel in control was putting on makeup because everything was out of control, especially my skin. And so now I've just got in that habit of like putting on makeup every single day.
No, but you look great every single day. And if when I put on makeup, like the more I put on, the less attractive I get. So you put on makeup and it always looks so good. And I'm like, somebody could take a picture of you from any angle and you would look good. I know that.
Oh, you're so
Yeah.
nice. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You're so nice.
Big fan, big fan.
You're so sweet.
Yeah. So are you happy? Yes, we are saving this. Are you having a good weekend so far?
Yes, it's been wonderful. We just have been hanging out at home and kind of a chill day. I always work on Sundays, and so this is my work day, and I usually take a day off in the middle of the week. So this is my work day, and it's a great weekend per usual.
In my world, you never take a day off. I'm like that. I feel like you work 7 days a week.
I know. I mean, I kind of do, but I try to take kind of half days where I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to watch 8 episodes of Outlander, and that's all I care about.
I have not got, you're so funny with Outlander because I'm like, okay, it's on my list, but I kind of been binge watching The Mandalorian, which I love.
I've never heard of that.
I think Jon Favreau created it. It's a part of Star Wars, which I'm not really a Star Wars person, but I just really love that the main character is this guy who wears a mask the whole time, and you love him anyway. Like, you just So yeah, and he wears a mask. So.
Okay, I'll have to try that next.
Yeah, and it has quote unquote Baby Yoda in it, and who doesn't love Baby Yoda? So
that's true.
Even though I'm not going to spoil anything, but anyway. So and then the Queen's Gambit, as we talked about, I totally built that one. Aren't you glad that they're not making another one? I kind of feel like it ended exactly where it needed to.
That's true. I mean, I just want to see that actress more. She was so good in it.
So good. The casting was so good.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
But since your rave reviews on the sex scenes in Outlander, I feel like I have to check it out.
They're unbelievable. They're unbelievable, especially the first season. They're so good.
All right. First season.
Yes.
When I saw you posted something and you're like, your husband left, and he's like, okay, get back to your porn.
Yep. 100%. And it is that, especially the first season. My God.
So funny. Anyway. All right. So I would love for you to share kind of your skin journey and what brought you to the beans.
Yeah. So I have had acne, since I was 13, like if not earlier. And I've kind of gone through different bouts of it. And then when I started doing CrossFit and I went paleo, this was back in 2010, as I started getting I was competing at the time and I was eating strict paleo. My skin was out of control. It was so painful. It was completely cystic acne covering my face and under my neck. And I finally threw in the towel because I'd done a bunch of different prescriptions. I was like, I'm doing exactly what I should be doing. I'm eating paleo. I'm not eating sugar. Like, I'm not drinking dairy. I'm not eating dairy. What else is there? And I was having all these people tell me like, you just need to cut out dairy. I'm like, okay, I've done all of that. And so I finally went on Accutane. Accutane, of course, you know, cleared it up. And then after a year, after being off Accutane, a year later, my acne came back. And so my dermatologist was either like, we could put you back on Accutane or we can put you on spironolactone. So I went on spironolactone, which I'm sure if people are watching this, they have all heard of that, or may hear of it at some point. And it really helped clear up my skin. And I was like, okay, sweet. And then as I got, you know, a little bit older and I was on it for years, I'm like, I don't want to continue to be on medication my whole life. Like, I don't even like taking ibuprofen, let alone taking a prescription every single day. And, you know, if I ever have kids, you know, you're not supposed to be on spironolactone. And I'm like, there has to be something else. So I went back to my dermatologist, and she, you know, was like, how about we just put you on, an antibiotic. We'll just clear everything out, all the bad bacteria. And I was like, okay, but you understand, like a Z-Pack is going to kill all my good bacteria too. Like, to me, a Z-Pack is supposed to be when you are in dire situations. Like, I took it when bronchitis and I was getting really bad. It's not supposed to be in this situation where you're trying to heal everything from inside out. And so that's when I was getting really frustrated. And my dog almost died this year. So I went through a really stressful, it was a full 16 days, but then the stress lasts, you know, after that, because I continually thought he was going to die. And I was like waking up at night wondering if he wasn't breathing. And so that stress just took over and my skin was the worst it had been in probably like 6 years or so. And so I was feeling so upset, so sad, depressed every day. And I was on a walk with my friend Jess, and I was telling her of how frustrating it was. And she had told me she had just listened to the Expanded podcast with you on it. And she told me about you and Karen Hurd and talked about the bean protocol. And I was like, no way. Like, no, that's stupid. No way. You know, paleo does not say yes to beans, and I haven't had beans. And if I ever do eat beans, my stomach feels bloated. So that's my body saying it doesn't want them. So I listened to the podcast with you first, and then I listened to Karen Hurd's podcast as well on Expanded. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, what do I have to lose? Like, why not try this? And if it doesn't work for me, like, it's just food. It's not medication. It's not these prescription gels. It's not this crazy regimen that I'll have to do at night with my skincare. It is literally just food. And your story, along with Karen telling her different stories and her story with her daughter, I'm like, there has to be something to this. And it makes sense when you guys break it down, what happens. So, you know, I started the Bean Protocol. I think I reached out to you maybe a couple weeks after I'd started the Bean Protocol. I just started it on my own. And then I downloaded your e-course and, you know, booked some calls with you. And I mean, within the first month, my skin was already clearing up. I mean, it was literally like within 2 weeks, I started seeing my skin change. And I did, of course, I cut out caffeine. That was a big one. That was a really, really hard one. When I look back, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. But when you're in it, you know, it always feels, change is always hard. Yeah. Sugar wasn't hard, but caffeine was the hardest part. And then just changing how you ate. You know, you're just used to how you eat. And so adding in beans and, you know, it just feels a little bit different. I was feeling bloated and, of course, super gassy at first because I just went full on. I didn't go slowly into it. That's usually how I am. I just dive in deep. And so the gas was, you know, bad for 2 to 3 months. I think after I got through the 2-month mark, it like completely cleared up. And then I would have some like residual depending on what beans I ate, because I'll just like test out other beans to see how they go. And so that part was hard. And I think that's why so many people are like, I can't do this. I can't do it. And I'm like, I get it. That sucks. Having gas sucks, especially if you're like single trying to date. That would be terrible. So luckily I have a husband who doesn't notice much. And so he didn't notice. But my skin continued to clear month to month over and over. And I would feel frustrated sometimes because I would feel like, okay, maybe it's not working anymore, because I would get around my period and I would feel like I would just be able to do the same thing. And I really needed to bean up and add more. And so that was a frustrating point, but I didn't give up. And I would talk to you and you would tell me, like, it's okay. You just got to stick with it. And especially, I just got to my 6-month mark. And you said like 6 months, that's when a lot of change begins to really happen for people, depending on what they suffer with whatever's going on in their gut and their acne. And I got to that 6-month mark. I'm maybe a couple weeks over it, and my skin is continually getting better and better and better. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I have to tell you, like, the stories and the people I work with and the changes that happen in people's diet. And I know you and I had this conversation because a lot of people are like, oh, well, if you cut out caffeine and sugar, things are going to get better anyway. But it's more than that, especially when you're dealing with hormonal imbalances. And it's amazing how many clients I get who are either owners of CrossFit or CrossFit people with really bad skin and hormonal imbalances. And all you can think is like, pumping that much adrenaline and working yourself that hard really is a part of that story, because I see it in so many, when somebody comes to me and then they start feeling better and their skin clears up and they're like, I'm going to do CrossFit. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe not, maybe not do CrossFit, but, or maybe do like a lesser intense version of CrossFit or something. But, yeah, it really is incredible. I mean, skin wasn't one of my issues. In the process of being sick, I had rashes and weird, like, things showing up on my skin and stuff like that. But I've never had like intense acne. And I can only imagine how fucked up that is, because you're walking around in the world and it's right there. My skin rashes I could hide in my clothing.
Yeah.
But the face is pretty intensive. But anyway, that 6-month, 9-month, 12-month, like, I have people on this protocol for such a long time. I mean, I have people who are just like, this is my way of life now, and my skin and my energy and my hormones are only continuing to get better. And my sleep is another big one that gets thrown out by hormones. So,
and kind of going back to that CrossFit thing, I wish I could push that into people's heads a little bit more, because especially in this time of the world that we're in right now, high intensity exercise is just everywhere. And it's what we're taught is like the best thing, especially as females. We're taught that we have to do high intensity all the time to get results. And it's just not true. And when I was in the CrossFit world, I was very much addicted to exercise. You get addicted to adrenaline, you get addicted to the fight or flight mode. And when I was starting to come out of CrossFit, I remember crying because I felt like I wasn't doing enough for my body when I was just doing kind of like a normal exercise or going down in weight. And now I'm in this point in my life that when I have something stressful going on, when my work gets really stressful, I have something going on, I don't work out. And it's all because, honestly, the Bean protocol of learning what stress does to the body. And when my dog almost died, the stress was out of control. And now when my stress levels are high, I don't work out for de-stressing. And that's what we're taught. It's like makes you feel better because it gives you endorphins, but it really just puts more issues onto the body, more toxins into the body, and it's just going to hurt the skin long term. And so now I'll skip a workout. I'll just let my body rest. And if I'm pushing it too high intensity, I take a few days off, and then I kind of regroup of like, okay, I shouldn't be working out quite like that. And I change my, path, I guess. But I wish we could stress that more. Hopefully people get that on this call is think about your exercise. If it is high intensity all the time and you are suffering from different health issues, if it's acne, if it's any kind of health issue, exercise is a part of that too. It's not just like de-stressing in other ways. You have to look at your exercise.
yeah. And, it's interesting because I think in a lot of healing paths, people are always like, oh, work out like as part of healing. And sometimes it's the opposite that your body actually needs is to be working out while you're trying to heal. It's kind of weird because everywhere you go and every doctor you speak to, they're like, oh, make sure you get physical exercise. And sometimes it's actually the opposite. It's like, take a little bit of the load off, relax. Like, I used to be a crazy weasel working out all the time and running and trail running and doing all this stuff. And when I got sick, I was at the best shape, quote unquote, I had ever been at. And, the whole like looking healthy but not being healthy is something I feel like needs to be broken down, especially for women. It's like, just because you look in shape doesn't mean you're actually healthy. If you're not actually taking care of your body and you're pushing it all the time and you're trying to be a certain size or look a certain way and you're not feeding yourself properly, and there's so many different components, it's not skin deep. Health is a totally different conversation than just how you look anyway. And now I work out the least I've ever worked out, and I have my favorite body. Like, it's my favorite body. I'm like, this is my favorite body.
Yeah.
It's not the body I thought I wanted, but it's my favorite body because it's healthy, it's strong, it's resilient. You know, I like it. I'm a fan. And I work out for only 30 minutes every day.
Yeah. And you're healthy. And that's like the biggest thing. That's why people work out, is to be healthy. And so you have to find that right balance of exercise to make sure you're your healthiest. And what I loved about the Bean Protocol is I thought I had everything right. I thought that eating paleo was the best because it had worked so well for me in the past. Like, getting away from gluten helped so much. And so I was like, this is the way it is. Like, I'm getting enough fiber in just eating enough vegetables. And then the Bean Protocol opened my eyes to, okay, there is a different way. And it's different for everybody. Like, my body is going to be different than your body, and our needs are going to be a little bit different. And so play around with things. And so now I'm eating oats and I'm eating beans, like things I never ate. I didn't eat for 10 years and I've never felt better. And I have the least amount of exercise I've done in 10 years and I've never felt better. So if I could push that to people, it's remember that you don't know it all, and to try different things, because your body changes throughout the years, and something that worked 10 years ago in that moment might not work for you now. So be open to other ideas. Don't be scared of them because they're different than what you thought was right.
Well, we also get really attached to labels. Like, I'm paleo, so that means I don't eat X, Y, and Z, and I'm this, so I don't eat these things. So I think a lot of people, you know, think that they can get enough fiber, and you can from vegetables, wonderful dietary fibers. They just don't have soluble fiber. And that's the bigger conversation that nobody's really talking about. It's like, oh, fiber, oh, I can get that in some oats. Oatmeal has a fraction of the amount of soluble fiber that the body actually needs. So it's really letting go of this idea of like, oh, I get enough fiber by eating vegetables. You are dietary fiber, just not soluble fiber. And soluble fiber is really the missing key for people's health imbalances and their hormonal imbalances and gut health as well. So I think in a world where we are very stressed out, and then we stress our bodies out with really hardcore workouts, you need something as a counterbalance. And what I love about this protocol is that it's such an incredible counterbalance to our crazy lives, our stressed out lives, especially now during a pandemic where people are just kind of like unsure of what the world is going to be moving forward. Like, I feel like this protocol allows me to just feel calm and centered and not, you know, out of control with stress all the time. It really, to me, what it's done for me, one of the things it's done for me beyond giving me my health back is giving me a sense of calm, where I really do not worry about the things that I cannot control. I just don't. Like, it's really, I'm just like,
completely. I feel that same way. I started the protocol in May, and, you know, kind of mid when we went down into quarantine a bit. And I felt really good throughout. I was able to deal with that stress so much better. And, you know, whenever I do something stressful, like I go get Botox, which, you know, is just stressful on the body. You're always like, bean up. You're not like, hey, you can't do that. You're like, okay, we're just going to bean up and just make sure we're like processing through any of the toxins that are in your body. And it's, you know, you have to deal with the different stressors that come up when you're taking care of your body in the best way possible. It's so much easier to deal with those stressors.
Yeah. And it also is having, like, I just don't think there's enough education about bile and hormones and the enterohepatic recirculation and how it works in the body. And I think it really, what Karen did was really kind of stumble upon something that was right in front of everybody's faces, but nobody was really interacting with it. You know, there was all of these like liver cleanses and let's go ahead and force the liver to detox. But if the liver doesn't have a trash bag for the bile to get out of the body, then it just recirculates at at 95%. Our bile recirculates, and in our bile is all of those excess hormones, all of those medications you're taking, birth control pill, you know, chemical hormones, like all of these things that we put into our body. And we just think that we're going to pee everything out, but not everything is water soluble. A lot of things are fat soluble. And to me, like having the beans as part of your healthy living lifestyle is almost essential in today's world, like incredibly so. And I have people who come to me from so many different, you know, ways of life and living, and they're just adding beans in, some of them, and they're just like, I get love letters from people who are not even working with me, who are just adding beans in because of hearing my story and hearing people's results like yours and going, fuck it, I'm just going to add beans in. And yeah, I was a little gassy and that was a little uncomfortable, but I feel amazing. I'm sleeping better. I feel calmer. I don't have as much anxiety. The levels that it has worked for people, to me, is mind blowing. Because when I did it, I was like, oh, this is for Crohn's disease, and then my painful periods disappeared. Like I had horrible endometriosis and horrible painful periods every single month, and they just went away. And I remember saying to Karen, because we never even talked about it, because I'm a lifer on the beans, and she was like, oh yeah, it helps your hormones too. And I was like, well, son of a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it was incredible to me.
And that's, since I've been on the protocol, I mean, I think in the past 6 months, I've had one cramp on my period. This past month, I had like one cramp for like an hour, and it wasn't like any crazy painful. It was just like, oh, okay, my period's coming type of feel. And that, when I shared that on Instagram stories, the feedback I got from women who were like, what? Okay, sign me up. It wasn't even acne related. They didn't give a crap about that. It was literally, they have terrible, painful periods and they don't want to live like that anymore. And the Bean protocol helps you not live that way anymore. Like mine have completely gone away. If I get one, it's very, very light. And usually I'm like 2 days before my period right now. So I try to bean up before to really counteract any of those. And you just have to pay more attention to it. You have to be more aware of it. And if you're more aware, you're going to feel better. So it's a pretty easy thing to be more aware of.
Wait, how do you look so good 2 days out from your period? Because I don't know about you, but something happens to me where I literally feel like everything turns yellow. like it's dark circles. Like, how do you look so good?
It's called a spray tan. So you just need to get spray tans more often. It's called fake, fake, and fake.
And awesome. There's an ongoing joke in my family that if you walk into a room and it smells like farts, it's probably farts.
There you go.
I have a friend who's married to a guy who can't smell, and I'm like, oh my God, you could be like, this is perfect.
Seriously. Brian has like no sense of smell. It's pretty great.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, most people just blame the dog, but I will say that after, you know, and there's still times like if I'm really stressed out, that's the other thing to talk about with beans and people being like, oh, they make you gassy. They do, because your body's actually fermenting a lot of those fibers. But we'll also get gassier naturally around times where we're either really stressed out or pumping a lot of adrenaline, working out hard, close to our periods. These are times where we will tend to pump a lot more adrenaline and ferment our food instead of digest it properly. So that's one of the things that are going on for a lot of women when they do get gassy.
And one of the questions I feel like I see the most is like, is this forever? Like, is the Bean protocol forever? Because is it something you can just do, clear your acne, and then, you know, move on from it? And two things I want to say with that. One thing, I think this is like getting a little bit more traction, is people are finding out about like blue zone areas, and these blue zone areas where people live much longer, like healthier lives. All of these areas include beans in them.
Yep.
And that's for a reason. And number two to that, it's kind of like exercise. You can't exercise for a month and then expect to see those results for the rest of your life. You know, you built up some like biceps and then you're like, okay, I'm good. I'll never work out again. Or, you know, you go to therapy once and you're just like cured from whatever. You know, you have to continue to do things like brush your teeth and take care of your body. And so for me, eating beans, as far as I know, is what I will plan to do forever. I don't go as strict as like drinking the beans like I was in the first 2 months, when I'm just like trying to clear this acne out. And, you know, I'm like pureeing them and just keeping them in a thermos to drink them all day long. That's not what I'm doing now, but I do eat beans 5 to 6 times a day. If, I don't get to it because I'm traveling or something like that, that's life. But I really do plan to have those things with me so I can make sure I stick with it. And I plan to always incorporate beans into my diet. And that's how I plan to live long term, because if it means my acne is going to stay cleared long term, then I will stick with it. I had it for, 20 plus years, and I don't want to have it anymore. So I plan to stick with it. Not as strict as the first 2 months on the bean protocol, much a little more fluid and easier. But yes, it's something I think you have to actually stick with. Do I have some sugar sometimes? Yes. Do I have a cocktail sometimes? Yes. But I'm still continually eating those beans to kind of counteract that and to live my best life. My hair's never been healthier. Like, my nails are super strong. I mean, why wouldn't I continue eating them?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't floss your teeth once, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Kind of nasty if you did. But yeah, and I'm happy that you have found your balance. And I think that's a big thing that people worry about. Like, oh, Unique, do I have to eat this strictly forever? And my answer is no. Like, while you're healing your body, depending on your health imbalances, going all in is important to kind of get ahead of your inflammation and hormones and all that stuff. And resting is important. And also, there's people on this protocol who are doing it for skin, for hormones, for other health imbalances. And if somebody's like, I have clients who are really, really sick and have horrible gut issues, they have to be 100% all in. If they're not, they just never get ahead of healing, really. So for everybody else, and like, get the results you want and then find your balance with it. For some people it's 80-20, for other people it's 90-10. I've been on the bean protocol for almost 8 years now, and in that time I've played with 80-20, 90-10, and now I'm more like 95-5, which is really weird, but I don't feel restricted. I just feel really good. And I do have a tequila shot sometimes, and I do have things off protocol sometimes, but it's like, I just find myself really not gravitating to sugar. I used to be an absolute addict and could not imagine my life without sugar. And now I don't even think about it, which is crazy, because I feel like as humans, we're geared for sugar and quick release sugar, right? For things that hit your bloodstream really fast and those super palatable foods. And I think it's almost, we fight our human nature in a weird way, not having sugar. But I don't feel that way anymore. Like, if my daughter brings it into the house, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't care. You can have it. Like, I have no interest in it anymore. It's weird.
That was something I've done, like, different sugar detoxes in the past and cut out sugar, for my skin especially. And now on the bean protocol, after 6 months, like last night I had some like kettle corn, and most of the time when I'm like starting to crave something, and I would normally go to sugar, because I've plenty of sugar in our house. We have like all kinds of different treats in our house. And I will like go into the pantry and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to just like go have some beans or go have something salty. Like, I'll find myself like having some sort of chip or something. I just find salty way more enjoyable now. And I never felt that way. I was always a sugar person to the max. I've come from a mom who's addicted to sugar, and I've always loved sugar. And this was the first time that I don't feel like I'm craving it. I just, if I really want something, like last night I wanted kind of sweet and salty crunch, and then I had some of that. But before, I would feel restricted from different like detoxes and protocols, and I don't feel that way anymore. I just don't really want it. And if I do, I'll have a little something, but it'll be like a much smaller portion instead of gorging myself because I felt so restricted before. Now I think of it as like, my skin is not going to really love that sugar anyways. So unless I really, really want that, then don't have it. And if you're really, really wanting it, cool. But if my skin doesn't, then I'm going to leave my skin alone.
Skin first, man. Skin first. It's interesting. I think when you're doing the protocol to get results, and or any protocol, and you restrict yourself to try to get results, as soon as you get your results, most people then spin out. Because I talked about it recently, where it's like power versus force. Force is restricting yourself and kind of like holding on. You're holding on to get your results. And then as soon as you get your results, you're like, woohoo! And the wheels come off. And power is I choose health. And it doesn't mean you're not going to choose sugar sometimes. It might be part of the things that you choose, but you choose it versus like you have no control over it and you just are eating all of the sugar or something. And that's kind of what the restriction does for a lot of people, is it causes that desire to binge on something versus going, I choose health. And in my healthy path, sometimes I might have sugar, sometimes I might not, but it's not about restriction. It's about choice. And I think choice is so much more powerful than restricting ourselves anyway, you know.
Yeah.
It's always a choice. Even if somebody's really trying to heal something, it's always a choice to do something for your body or not do something for your body. And I think knowing I have the choice to eat sugar whenever I want because I'm healthy and I feel great, and if I want sugar, I'm going to have it. It just hasn't appealed to me, where it's not even about restriction. I just look at it and I'm like, nothing. I feel nothing for you. It's like seeing an old lover and being like, wow, I just feel nothing. Like, I just feel nothing for you. That's how I feel about sugar. I feel nothing for you. I nor want you or hate you or anything. I don't have any interest in you.
And that's something that I think comes up a lot is alcohol. You know, not even sugar as much, but alcohol, which, you know, is sugar at the same time. But that is what I think people have a really hard time with. And I try to think of it as the same thing. I'm choosing my health, and none of my friends understand it. I mean, they respect it, but none of them understand it. And to me, I'm choosing to be my healthiest person possible. And sometimes a cocktail plays into that because it's just out with my friends and I'm having fun. But 99% of the time, it doesn't play into that health story that I want to create. Like, we're going to be on a vacation for New Year's and everybody's going to be drinking. And I was like, they're all saying how I need to stay up till midnight and they're pushing it on me because they know I can't. And I'm like, come on, like, why wouldn't you want to stay up on New Year's? I'm like, because I want to wake up in the new year feeling like my best version of myself. And that's because I want to choose the healthiest life for myself, and not saying anything bad about what they want to do, but that's what I choose for myself. And that's that power of, you know, turning down drinks and turning down sugar. And especially with the holidays coming up, when you have family pushing things on you because they're insecure about their own stuff, and so they push it onto you, you have to stay strong in your own health journey and choosing your own path and deciding what is most important to you. And for me, what's important to me is keeping my skin clear and feeling like the best version of myself and waking up feeling rejuvenated for a good day. So I just want to push that because I feel like it's just not talked about enough. Alcohol is not talked about enough on social media, especially. It's very glorified in our society. And that plays a part into adding stress to your body that, you know, makes it harder for you to heal from the inside out.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is so important. And I talk about it because it's kind of subtle bullying that happens when somebody doesn't want to do what everybody else is doing, right? And then everybody else is like, oh, come on, you have to do it. And it's subtle bullying because for me, you know, I spent so much time not taking care of myself to do what everybody was doing, right? Okay, we're doing this, let's do that. Okay, you're eating this, let's eat that. And when I started to differentiate myself and go, wow, I actually have to take care of my body and what's right for my body, despite what everybody else is doing, I had to be able to stand up for myself. And that is such a hard thing to do because I think we're pack animals and we feel our community by everybody joining in together in something. And to be different and to feel okay, I realized like I had to start standing up for myself and just saying, hey, totally fine if you guys do this, but my body does not appreciate this, whatever it is, if it's rounds of shots or staying up really late, like I feel like shit the next day and I don't really want to feel like shit anymore just to kind of join in on this. I can perfectly have fun being sober, you know, like having one drink, or I usually regret the second drink anyway. But I think the subtle bullying that happens is really hard because if you don't feel strong in yourself, then you crumble to it. You know, if you don't feel strong, like, hey, I'm not doing this because I'm restricting myself. I'm doing this because I'm taking care of myself. And I know this looks weird to you and I know that you may not agree with it, but you know, I get it, but you do you, right? You do you and I'll do me. And I tell my clients, I'm like, you're the only one who has to live in your body. Nobody else does that. So if you don't protect the castle, who's going to do that? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, when I was doing CrossFit, I started doing CrossFit when I was like 21. And so as soon as I graduated college, I started competing, and my goal was to be an athlete, and drinking did not play into that. And at the same time, the community I was in with the CrossFit community, they were all big drinkers. And so I would get shit about it all the time. And I mean, I was 22. So it's like all the only friends I had were partying. And so that meant I spent all weekends in by myself, alone, you know, missing out on different times. But what was important to me was a certain goal in mind. And now my goal has shifted in a different way, that I just want to live a healthy life, feeling my best every single day. And not everybody's going to understand that, but you truly have to find your self-worth and be most proud of yourself for sticking up for yourself, because nobody else is going to stick up for you. So you have to find that comfort in your own skin, comfort maybe being alone, comfort maybe not being the drunk one, comfort being uncomfortable sometimes when people are drunk, whatever it might be. And you have to find comfort in that. And that's really hard. And that's why most people just give in, because they